reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network.
Hey guys, welcome to the ESO Reporter podcast. We're very excited to have you all here. I am one of the three main co-hosts here on the podcast. My name is Kyler. I'm joined with some of my best friends as well as family here. Why don't you guys go and introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name is Tyler, one of the co-hosts.
I'm Rob, the best co-host.
He wishes he was the best co-host.
You wish.
Oh my gosh. All right, so we're actually very excited. This is our pilot episode for The Elder Scrolls Online. All of us, actually at least only two of us here have actually played the game.
Yeah, I haven't quite gotten around to that yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm actually very excited to hear Tyler's thoughts about the game.
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions about it, so.
Cool. And then Robbie, how long have you been playing the game?
I've been playing kind of off and on for a while. Yeah, so I have some experience. I'm not an experienced MMOer. Not as experienced as you, but I've been able to get some great impressions, especially for someone who doesn't play, really, and picking up one for the first time seriously.
Mm-hmm. What kind of led you into to picking up The Elder Scrolls Online?
Oh, what led me to pick it up?
Yeah.
I just love the franchise. I've always been into the Elder Scrolls games. For me as a kid, it was kind of the only game that I felt like when I jumped into it, I felt like I was really going to a different world. Other RPGs, it was all this, third-person view, very far away, but they were so fleshed out. And I used to say, if I were ever to get into an MMO, this was back when EverQuest was big, I said it'd have to be an Elder Scrolls game online. So it was a dream come true when they announced it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when I was I used to play The Elder Scrolls Online kind of like when it first came out, or no, when it went to buy to play. I bought the game, started playing it, but I'm used to playing it with like a controller, like playing Skyrim and stuff like on the Xbox and Morrowind. And Tyler, you played Skyrim, haven't you?
Yeah, I played the crap out of Skyrim. I love that game.
So when I found out that for the Orsinium downloadable content that they just released, and they came out with the controller support, I was all over that. I've been playing the game nonstop for the last maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, you know what? That actually for me was a huge deal breaker when I got on there, because I've been a console gamer my whole life, and I'm just now switching to PC. But I was first introduced to Elder Scrolls through Morrowind on the Xbox, and that game was awesome. It was ridiculously hard. You first start out with like no dexterity, so you can't hit a thing, but it was awesome. And so that's what I'm used to, and it just didn't feel like Elder Scrolls to me until they added that.
Yeah, that was the exact same for me. And like I've played the game for a while now, and so have you. Like we've actually played together, Robbie. That was probably some of the funnest experiences. But I kind of want to ask Tyler what are some of his thoughts on the game, being someone like as an outside perspective, like jumping into the game.
Well, I've actually only watched a couple intros for the game, and so I just have a couple questions. The main question I have would be, with content, I played Destiny when it first came out, and it's really struggled with content. It just barely started coming out with decent content. And I was wondering, how is Elder Scrolls Online doing with content, and with content that they're releasing in the future?
That's a really good question. So one of the things that Elder Scrolls Online does is they have kind of smaller patches to kind of fix things up throughout it, little events and stuff. But I think their main thing that they are doing with content is they're releasing large chunks of content that you can pay, about $20 for. They actually just released one called Orsinium. It has to deal with like the orcs' homeland in Hrothgar. And I know for a fact a lot of people really, really enjoyed that downloadable content. In fact, I just subscribed to the game, so I was able to kind of jump in and play a little bit. But unfortunately, I was having problems with the game the last couple of days with connection issues. But I know people just kind of like jumped in and just ate up that content because they wanted it. Like they loved it so much. Like Robbie, what about you? Like, what are your experiences?
Yeah, and I don't know how it really compares to other ones, but I know that the Elder Scrolls has a huge plan for constantly coming out with content. Um, which is, and I'll probably get into this more later, but one of the reasons I am so excited about it, um, just because, for example, every Elder Scrolls game has been based on provinces, except for the first one. Arena had all of Tamriel, and that's their vision for this game. And I think, Kyler, I think you're the one who told me that they eventually want to open the whole thing up, and so that leaves a lot of room for content. This is a continent that everything's happening on, and so far there's been a lot of approval for the stuff that's come out. And every single time I get on there, there's something about some new mount. Yesterday I saw some guy with a pet bear, like a baby bear, and it was adorable.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Tyler, talking about Skyrim, I just recently started playing Skyrim again, and the world in that game is absolutely massive. It's huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wanted to compare kind of how big Skyrim's map is to Elder Scrolls Online, and so I got on and was looking at some of the maps. Right now, they only have like 2 areas, and they're massive areas. They're absolutely huge. It's Riften, and I want to say the other one's Windhelm. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I know Windhelm is in that area. But they only have 2 areas out of Skyrim, and it's probably not even like a third of the entire Skyrim map. It's massive.
And so, are they planning on releasing the entire Skyrim area?
I think so in the future. And which I'm really excited for, because there's some places in Skyrim. Now, I don't know if you knew this, Tyler, but Elder Scrolls Online takes place 1,000 years before the events of Skyrim.
Oh, I heard that when I was watching an intro video.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot different with that there. But I do know that they're planning on, hopefully, like I was telling Robbie, eventually releasing the entire map. The area I'm excited for the most is Skyrim and probably Black Marsh. Those are some of the areas I'm really excited about.
And so it's interesting, and I think this is going to tick off some Elder Scrolls fans that are listening, but Skyrim was not my favorite of the series. And yeah, and I thought it was a big, beautiful game. It was amazing, but when I played Oblivion, I loved Oblivion, and the reason I loved it is because there was an amazing variety in the landscape. And in Skyrim, when I first started playing it, it was just this very dank and gloomy environment, which is, that's the whole point. That's what Skyrim is like. But the vividness of Oblivion and kind of the exploration, I felt like it was greater there. When I went from one area to another or found some castle or stronghold, it felt like I was in a different place. And that's something that I feel like I get back again with Elder Scrolls. And I love Skyrim. I feel like Elder Scrolls Online and Oblivion have a lot more of that exploration.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I love about Skyrim is whenever I get out of the tutorial cave, the first thing that I want to do is kind of pick a random direction and then walk, and then adventure happens.
Yeah.
I hardly ever follow the main storyline, and that's something I actually really enjoy about Elder Scrolls Online. Is so far I've noticed that a lot of the quests that I've accepted, they're not level locked. Like I accepted the quest, the Undaunted, and that's like a level 12, and I accepted it at like a level 4. So like I noticed like quests aren't blocked off to you, and I can pretty much, you can kind of do the same thing. You can kind of go off in any direction that you want, and there'll be like a quest there, like a side quest. And the quests in this game, they're not like, oh, go here, pick up 10 things and bring it back, but there's like an actual story behind it. And Tyler, with you, like with the way that you played Skyrim, what are some of your expectations for Elder Scrolls Online in comparison to what you've experienced in Skyrim?
I guess I expect it to be really open. Like when I played Skyrim, like you said, you can walk in any direction you want, and you can literally climb mountains and go everywhere you want. With Elder Scrolls, I'm hoping that you can kind of do the same thing. I was wondering if they kind of guide you with like little, I don't know what I'm trying to think of.
Like markers, map markers?
Sorry, what was that?
If they guide you with like map markers so you know where you're going?
No, like they don't leave it as open as they could. Like they guide you along with, like they almost trap you so you can't go to certain areas. Like with Skyrim, you could pretty much go in any direction you wanted. Is that kind of how it is with Elder Scrolls Online?
Yeah, I would say there is some limitation in hedging in Elder Scrolls Online. I didn't appreciate it until I started looking into other MMOs and understanding the limitations they're having to deal with, making sure every quest is accessible to every other person that's there. I would say though that it's so brilliantly like minimal that it doesn't cause a problem for me. I don't really notice it because there is so much to explore, and it's got to be the most immersive MMO that there is currently. That you still get this very strong sense that you can go in any direction. And honestly, when I first got in there, I'm kind of used to playing. My first kind of step into MMOs is not a traditional MMO. It was Destiny. And Destiny, you go to your areas, you work in that area, you go back home. But in this, I was kind of expecting to be like that because of the provinces. Nope, you can just walk and you can just like get lost.
Yeah, just thinking about that openness that Elder Scrolls has. Obviously, there's areas that you can't go into if you're not high enough level. Like I spent maybe an hour making my way over to the Skyrim area. I was playing in the Morrowind section. I can't remember what that town's called, that section's called, but it connects up to Riften, which is like the southeast side of Skyrim. And when I finally got into the area, I noticed all the mobs were like level 40. So obviously I couldn't just go in there and play the content. But one thing that I really, really enjoy that Elder Scrolls Online did, and it's something I wish other MMOs would do, because when an expansion comes out for an MMO, it increases that hype for that MMO. And I start looking back into it, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to totally jump in to play the game again. But then I get the same, stagnant experience I had previously, because one, I'm a lower level, and the expansion content is for those higher level, those characters, but I still got excited even though I'm not going to be able to play it. But with Elder Scrolls Online, when they came out with Orsinium, as soon as you leave the starter area, all you have is a dagger in hand and some raggedy clothes, you can immediately jump into Orsinium, and they will bump your level up to I think it's VR veteran rank. I think all the way to the max level. They bump you up, and so anyone, as long as you have access to that content by either buying it or if you're a subscriber, anyone can jump into it and experience it, and it's not locked out to you.
That's cool. To go along with what you were saying about losing interest and jumping back in, I think it's interesting to bring that, because when Elder Scrolls Online came out, it actually was kind of getting mediocre reviews from a lot of the players, and some of them being disappointed, and that's not the case anymore. And back to Tyler's earlier thing about content releases, you can tell if you look at the way people feel about the game when it released and compared to now. They're very dedicated to appeasing its audience. Like they try and make improvements, and they do it very successfully.
Yeah, I definitely. One of the big things that I know a lot of players really wanted in the game that they just barely released was the justice system. Like you can go around and you can pickpocket NPCs. You can even kill certain NPCs that are not necessary to certain quests, and like guards will actually arrest you. Like I remember playing Oblivion. In fact, I think Robbie, you're the one that introduced me into Oblivion, and one of my very favorite moments I can still remember is going into the mage's store and like sneaking around, like lockpicking some of his cases and stealing some of the staffs. Like that was like my favorite thing. And I felt so like such an adrenaline rush. And I always was like, oh man, like when the guards would come get me. And just the other day, I was playing Elder Scrolls, and I was kind of in one of the starting cities, and I found this chest, and it was a merchant's chest, and I opened it and found some sweet stuff. And I thought I was hidden, but unfortunately the merchant saw me, and I had a bunch of stolen goods that I had stolen throughout the entire week. Like I spent like a week doing this, and a guard came up, and it was either one, I fight the guard and die, and they steal my stuff, or I pay the fine. So I decided just to pay the fine, but I didn't realize they were going to take all my stuff anyway. So I lost like three of my equipment items. It was extremely fun. I know a lot of people love that. So
that sucks, and that's hilarious because it's a huge like inconvenience, but it is a big brand of the Elder Scrolls games that everybody does love. Because other RPGs I've played, I can't recall any right now that I can go up and steal things and the guards react and your reputation changes. I think a bit of, not Oblivion, but the Elder Scrolls games in general kind of forged that for the RPG community. So something else I want to kind of bring up is one of the reasons, I got to tell you, I actually oddly think that the Elder Scrolls Online is one of the best Elder Scrolls games that have ever been released. And I might even say it is the best. There are limitations compared to other ones. To what you can, I mean, just the fact that, for example, when you're in a cave in Skyrim and you shoot something, someone, down at the other end of the cave is going to hear it and they come running. In, Oblivion, they don't do that as much. You stay on a certain distance away from someone and they're not going to necessarily notice you. And a lot of that is to facilitate how many players there are. But this is kind of the big beauty that I see with the Elder Scrolls. I've been looking more into tabletop RPGs and understanding where RPGs started before computers were capable of doing this stuff. And the whole point originally was to tell a story together. And once those RPGs moved to computers, it became being told a story. And they're great. They're awesome. I think one of the best RPGs probably ever created was Baldur's Gate, that really brought that tabletop feeling over. But still, there's limitation. And when you come to the Elder Scrolls Online and you're playing this game that you feel completely immersed in, and more than other games, you have so much more capability to affect the world around you, and now you can do it socially. It's grabbing so many of those original elements that you found in like the first Dungeons & Dragons and current Dungeons & Dragons games and other tabletop RPGs, and it's bringing it back into gaming. And it's gotten me so much more excited and so much more appreciative of the MMO format.
Just thinking about what you're saying about storytelling, one of my favorite things about the Elder Scrolls Online is that the story about the world around you. Now, I will say, Tyler, when you get a chance to play the game, it's got a kind of a very standard role-playing story to it.
Okay.
You come back from the dead, you're the hero, like you're the only one. Some people have like a struggle with that, like you're the only one to save, Tamriel from Molag Bal. He's like the really big bad guy.
Yeah.
But honestly, when I play role-playing games like Skyrim and Oblivion, I'm not after the main story quest. I probably will never actually complete story quests like the main one in games like that. But I want to share an experience I had with the Elder Scrolls Online that I absolutely loved, that I felt brought the world alive to me. And I had entered into a public dungeon. I was on some kind of a side quest. Now, I don't exactly remember the side quest. I just know I had to like go in and stop some ritual or something. It actually might be a part of the main story quest to stop this ritual for the Daedra Prince. But when I was in there, I had one more NPC I needed to talk to in order to finish the quest. And I kind of went around and kind of explored for a little bit, and I found this book on the ground, and I read the book, and it was hilarious. The story was it was someone's journal or some folklore fairy tale or something like that about this boyfriend taking his girlfriend to this cave for like a romantic dinner. Now, this cave had the soul or the spirit of that boyfriend's ancestor. And so they're in this cave, and the boyfriend's like, oh, we're going to have a great time. We're going to have a great date. And the girl is she's scared out of her mind. And then all of a sudden there's like this bright flash of a light, and this spirit comes out, and it's the spirit of his ancestor that died during this war, I think back in like the first era of the Elder Scrolls. I can't remember the exact battle. But what interests me so much is it talks about how the boy interacts back with the spirit, tells him like, don't worry, like the war is over, you can go, you're free. The spirit leaves, and then there's this crazy twist where the girl hands him, here's like a drink or like a food object or like cheese or something, and he eats it, and all of a sudden he starts getting like really fuzzy, and he's like, what's going on? And the girl turns out to be like, I think a vampire or some Daedra worshiper.
Oh gosh.
And like kills her boyfriend in the cave, and like either I think sucks the blood or takes his blood for a ritual, and then it ends right there. And I just thought it was so interesting that they added that piece. And not a lot of players will find it unless they actually go searching for it. And that brought me more enjoyment than the actual main story quest that I was doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and you know what? Like that's another reason that Bethesda has been so exceptional with all its games. Even though Elder Scrolls Online isn't produced by Bethesda, it's produced by what company produces?
ZeniMax.
ZeniMax, yeah. But they do a really great job bringing over that Elder Scrolls branding, but yeah, I had a similar experience. I remember when I was playing Oblivion, I was exploring around, wandered into a cave, killed a creature or two, and when I walked somewhere, I found a stone on the ground with scratchings into it. And as you followed throughout this cave, you found out these, explorers went in there, and eventually it was vampires again. And once you get to the heart of it, there's a vampire. It was some awesome quest that the writers of the game fully expected that a lot of people wouldn't ever find. And I think more than any main story in any of the games, that's what people like, is that they can go and affect something or stumble upon something. And yeah, they keep it alive in Elder Scrolls Online.
You actually, you just remind me of something that I think this could be probably the last topic we could talk about before we end the podcast. But all of us, we recently read the article. I'm assuming you guys read the article about the werewolf and vampire transformations that they're selling in the store.
Yeah.
And I actually wanted to ask Tyler's opinion on this because, Tyler, you play Smite like all the time. It's like your main game right now.
Uh-huh.
And so you're used to microtransactions in a game.
Oh, yeah.
So what are your thoughts on, because like in the actual game before they put this in the store, you had to go through an entire quest around level 46, 47 in order to get these abilities. How do you feel now that they're selling it in the store?
Well, from what I was reading from people who actually play the game is that you actually gain some experience if you actually go through the quest, because there's a certain area when you're learning your werewolf ability where you can just test it out and actually level it up. I think you can level it up to level 10. I don't know how the leveling system works in ESO, but a lot of people were kind of mad because they had gone through all of this experience to get this ability and then tested it out so much, and now they're just releasing the option to, here you go, you can buy it, here you go, you can just unlock it immediately. And they're kind of, if you do buy it, I mean, it's kind of nice having that shortcut, but you're losing that experience and that the process of earning it. So, I mean, with Smite, it's not anything like that. Like, the microtransactions are for skins and different stuff like that. So I don't have a ton of experience with, I guess you could almost call it pay to win, except it's more like pay for a shortcut to something. But I guess I don't have a huge opinion on that since I'm not completely familiar with it.
Mm.
I actually thought it was interesting because I can see why it would be annoying. I think that if I saw someone with, who was a werewolf, I'd want to be like, whoa, how did that happen? I want to go earn that. And if I thought someone just bought it, I would lose just a little respect for them as a player, only because, they paid money and they got that thing that they didn't earn. But I think that I could see where ZeniMax in a way is thinking, hey, it's kind of mostly a skin. You get this, it changes your look, and that's kind of cool. I don't really know what it adds as far as abilities, but it seemed like a lot of the complaints weren't necessarily that you could do it. It was that when they first put it on there wasn't a big thing saying, hey, you can earn this in game. And to which ZeniMax came out and back and said, there is nothing in the store that you need to win the game. Like, there's all these things are available out in the quest. I think the only thing that you probably can't get in the game that you need to get in the store is something like a mount or a pet, and pets don't really do anything. They're kind of just for fun. And then the mounts, you start off the game with a certain amount of crowns that allows you to buy a mount. So I think they've been fair, and I think that was a little bit of a misunderstanding that, in the very beginning, ZeniMax just thought its players would understand, since they said it originally, is everything in the store is for fun, and nothing really crazy benefits you.
Mm-hmm.
That you can't do in the game.
Yeah. Some of the thoughts that I have on it. Now, I was very excited to become like a werewolf. Like, that was one of the goals I was going to get. Once I was able to actually do the quest, I was going to do it. And so then when I found out that you could purchase it, I may still go out and purchase it. But like you said, you might lose a little bit of respect for me because I'm using that shortcut.
Yeah, I'll hate you.
Yeah. But I think the thing that kind of bugs me the most about it, like, I'm not the biggest fan of them selling it. I understand why. Like, I feel like cash shops are mainly, like Tyler said, cosmetic or shortcuts, like experience boosters and stuff. I don't mind those things, because they don't give players the advantage. They give players that have more money but maybe less time in order to get things, unlike other players that have more time. But the thing that bugs me kind of the most is with Elder Scrolls games, when you play side quests and you go through the game, the choices that you make change your character. You know, like for instance, in Oblivion, I remember there's I think it's the Dark Brotherhood quest, which, by the way, Dark Brotherhood quest is coming in Elder Scrolls Online soon. There's not very much information on it. But going back, there's a quest that if you kill somebody, I think once you kill somebody and then you go to sleep, when you wake up, there's a member of the Dark Brotherhood there, and you begin this quest to become an assassin. You know, and if you didn't know about that quest beforehand, it can be a very engaging experience. And the thing is, with the Elder Scrolls Online, it's kind of the same thing as, let's say you're going through, and in order to get this werewolf quest or vampire quest, you have to be bitten by one or the other during a specific moon phase, or like during a specific time in the game. And then if you decide to pursue that, your character essentially changes. Now you become a werewolf, and it's part of the storytelling. And I really like that part of that role-playing aspect of your character developing as you play the game, not just in leveling up, but literally physically becoming a werewolf. And the fact that now they're selling it, I can understand players buying it, but if they buy it, they're going to miss out on that incredible storytelling opportunity.
Yeah, and you know what? I've never seen a werewolf in any of the other games, and so when I read the article, I was excited because there was a werewolf opportunity available. I was a little disappointed because that wasn't something I got to stumble upon. And, you know, there's not that much they could do for, you know, spoilers and things like that. But I think I would have been so excited had I stumbled across this werewolf thing, became a werewolf, like, and now I'm going, now I know it's available. Plus, I can just buy it, and it does cheapen a little bit. But I guess the truth is, you know, and ZeniMax, this is probably where the people who develop it roll their eyes a little bit. They go, you know, it's up to you guys to decide how you want to experience it. And there's some people who jump in the game and they play it casually, and they're okay to spend a few extra bucks. And we have it completely in our control. I understand the frustration. It does frustrate me a little. And then at the same time, I go, well, I guess I don't have to do that. Like, you know, Kyler and I can team up and we can run down and we can become werewolves together. Little puppy party.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's great for our very first episode, our pilot episode, guys. Thanks so much for watching, or not watching, I guess listening. I'm so used to making YouTube videos.
I know.
But guys, thanks for joining us on our very first episode of the Elder Scrolls Online Reporter. My name is Kyler.
My name is Tyler.
I'm Rob.
And we'll see you later, guys. Thanks.
Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Don't forget to check out all the other podcasts at MMOReporter.com or by clicking on any of the links here. And please check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMOReporter. Thanks, everyone, and see you in game.